Okay, welcome to Tanya Outside In. We are in chapter Kaf Dalad on page Lamed. First word on the line is 10 lines down for Imkain, Ha'adam, Ha'oiver. We are picking up now, again, we've kept saying this, but it's good to get this clear, is Perek Yud Ches and Yud Tes basically says you would give your life for God. Yeah? Perek Kaf Aleph Kaf Base says all there is God. Kaf Gimel says when you align yourself with God, this is how it looks like. This is what happens. Kaf Dalad now is saying what happens when you align yourself with the other. And that's why it's called Sitra Achra, because all it is just other. It's not something unto itself. It's just other.
And then Kaf Hey is going to say that basically that's what you're supposed to think about every time you're tempted.
Yeah, Kaf Hey is like
Does that
um
tie it all together?
well, see, Kaf Hey is like probably the most important parak for us because Kaf Gimel is talking about Torah and Avodah, yeah. Kaf Daled is talking about Avera, and Kaf Hey is talking about like Rishus and like just giving it your all in your everyday Avodah. Not Averas, not mitzvahs, just give him everything you got. It's a big chizuk Kaf Hey. Okay, the Imkain. But basically, we said until now that a guy who does an Avera ends up falling below Sitra Achra and Klipa, which is called Avodah Zarah. He becomes worse than Avodah Zarah itself, which is quite a stark statement. Here's a really stark parak. This is really, really stark. Okay, so hold on to your seats. For Imkain, if so, Ha'adam Ha'oiva or Atzona Yizbrach, the mensch who does an Avera, who goes against Ratzon Hashem, who garua upakus habe ma'oid me'asitra achor klipa nikreos avodah zara ve'elihim acherim. The person who does an Avera falls below, deeply below, intensely below Sitra Achra, Klipa, that's called Avodah Zarah, and Elohim Acherim. And this is coming after the fact that he spoke about like Bilam, who said, I can't go against Ratzon Hashem. I really want to, but I can't do it because he's the way the Tanya was saying is that because the klipa, because the Sitra Achra is Ruchni, it's kind of painfully aware that it's deriving its life from God. So even though it does want to sever its cord and it wants to rebel against God, it knows that it can't. It's like the rich, it's like the spoiled brat whose dad's really, really rich and he hates him, but he has to kind of stay on his right side because he knows, that's where that's where he's going to get his livelihood from. That's a good marshal. So the Yid falls below that because he actually does go against the Shem. Vahu betachlis apirud. This is Mordek. He is betachlis apirud miyechudoi va'achadusoi shel Kodesh Baruch Hu. He is utterly separated from Hashem's unity. Yosem Mimenu, more than the Klip and Sitra Achra. Lokilu koifer ba'achduso Yosem Mimenu chas v'shalom. It's like he's more koifer on his achdus. כמו שכתוב בעץ חיים, שם מ"ב, סוף פרק ד', שהרע שבו אל הזה החומרי, that the ra that is in this world of the physical material world, who shamre klipas v'gasus, they are the dregs of the most coarse klipa. V'tachlis habiru V'hutachlis habiru v'chulei. I'm not sure what that means. V'hutachlis habiru. I think that's talking about the avoider of the Yid that he's. I don't remember seeing that before. That's weird. Anyone has the English with them?
Yeah, it says left over at the very end of the refinement process.
Ah, But
The
wait,
degree, the
it says-
degree, the dregs, it said that the dregs of the coarse klipos left over at the very end of the refinement process, etc.
is that meaning? Is he talking about the avoider of the beririm of the nitzoitz and kedushim, or is he talking about like just the moshel? I don't know, the moshel of the actual winery. Yeah, V'shama Haklibs Gazas who Tachlis Abira. Okay, either way, they're the very lowest, the lowest klipo. L'chein kol ma'aser ilam haza kashim v'roim v'rashaim goyvim boy, and therefore the action, the ma'aser of olam hazer, which is the lowest of all levels. Yeah, the level of ma'aser in olam hazer, that is the lowest of all levels, and at that level, it's kasher and it's ra, and the rishoyim have hatzlacha, because, well, that's a good question. How can it ever be that a Rosh is matzliach? I mean, the question that how can there ever be ra bichlal is an amazing question. Like that's a really strong question that when you have to ask, like, we think the chiddush is the tzaddikim. Like, look, everybody's like normal, and then you've got these big tzaddikim, yeah? But the chiddush is the rishoyim. Everyone should be a tzaddik. How should it be that not everybody's a tzaddik? That's weird. That's weird. The fact that there's rishoyim, that's the chiddush. How can there be such a thing that people are not cognizant of the Bnei Shalom? How can that be? Yeah, the natural world, naturally it should be that we're mamash cognizant and bottled to Hashem Yisborach. That's how it should be. So that's what he's saying over here, that the Rishoyim, they are matzliach in this world because this is the most covered up world, and it makes sense that the Rishoyim should be matzliach in this world. Okay, L'chein Amar Razal al posuk ki tishte ishtoi. Or is it tisate? Has anyone got the nikud in there? Is it tisate?
Sista.
Tista.
Mhm.
Okay, tista, yeah. Ki tista ishtoi. This is, by the way, Loshen Shita. Yeah? This is Loshen Shoita. This is it means turns aside. But let's plug this into the model that we understand already. Tista ishtoi, the woman who turns aside. This is talking about the soita. Ein adam oive avera v'chulei. He doesn't even say it. Ela imkei nichnas bo ruach shtus. Da afilu isha hamnaefes. Even a woman who is committing adultery, shedata kala, the hadas is kal. It would be that she could be moishel over this ruach to do bad stuff if it wasn't for the ruach shtus shaba that came into her. Hamachase umaste umalim esa ahava masuteres, that covers over and conceals and hides the innate love that she has, for Hashem, shebenafsha elokis ledabka be'emunas Hashem, that is in the nefesh elokis, that is absolutely bound up in emunas Hashem, v'yichud v'achdusoi, in emunas Hashem and in his achdus, v'loy lipoid chaz v'shalom achdusoi afilu noitlin es nafshem emenu lavoy devoy zara chaz v'shalom, and that she would give up her life to not bow to avodah zara. But why is she doing an avera in Yanei Niyuf? Yeah, she would even give up her life to not bow to the idol, even though she's in her mind saying, "I don't believe in you." Chaz v'shalom. These words are very big. Yeah, all the more so, lichvoish, to defeat and to conquer her Yetzer and her Taivas Aniyuf that are Yisurim Kalim Memisa Hashem Yishmerenu. You hear those words? Yisurim, you understand what he's hinting to here? the Yisurim Kalim, to deny yourself pleasure is considered light, is considered a light suffering next to Misa. Hashem Yishmeinu. וההפרש שאצלה בין איסה ניף לאיסה שתחווי לעבודה זרה הוא גם כן רוח שטוס דקליפה. And the fact that she's making a chiluk between the niyuf and the bowing to avodah zara, meaning that she wouldn't bow to avodah zara, yeah, but she's ready to have znus with some guy, yeah, that's mamash dimyonis. Shtus deklipa hamalabeshes lenefesh elokis ad bechinas chochma sheba, and this ruach shtus goes up until the bechinas chochma in the soul, meaning it v'loy ad bechlal, but not, it doesn't actually cover the chochma. That's where the tshuva will come from. Mipnei or Hashem amelubash b'chochma. Now, as we mentioned earlier, that's the or Hashem is in the chochma, and that's the part of her that knows what's true. Okay, we have to unpack this. There's a lot of unpacking to do. The Ruach Shtus is the union of identification with emotion, which is basically identification with taiva, and that's why when you have to daven Ma'ariv, yeah, and you wanted to go via the corner store, what do you call it in America? The convenience store, whatever, the 7-Eleven, to buy yourself an ice cream, yeah? Well, you know you don't need it, yeah? It's just taiva. You don't need this ice cream at all, yeah? You've spent the whole day indulging yourself, and for sure this ice cream is not necessary, yeah? So you're on your way to Ma'ariv, and you mamash want to get this ice cream, and you get caught up, and so if you don't really like, you know you shouldn't get the ice cream, but you really want it, and it's ended up that you don't have time to go to the shop before Ma'ariv, so you have to daven Ma'ariv, and then you're going to go and get the ice cream on the way back to the car, yeah? So now you've got 20 minutes between you and the ice cream. Hashem made it, yeah, that you've now got a 20-minute break between you and the ice cream. And you know that you don't need it, and you know that you don't want it, but you really want it. And in the middle of Shemona Esrei, you're like, wow, this is a good idea. Listen, I'm standing in front of the Boy Sholem. Why don't I just daven for him to take away the taiva? And you can't. It's so hard. It's just as hard as not going into the shop to buy the ice cream. It's the same battle. It's the exact same battle. To daven to Hashem to take away the taiva, the guy's about to look at something bad on the internet, yeah? Why can't he daven to Hashem to take away the taiva? It's the same avoida. To say to Boy Sholem, take away the taiva as it is for the man not to click on the link. Because at that point, that's called the Ruach Shtus. He is the taiva. That's the Ruach Shtus. He is the taiva. So how are you gonna ask Hashem to take that away? That's like saying, Hashem, kill me. And if you do it, it's gonna be it'll be very like I said, you can do it, but it's as difficult as just not going into the shop. Like last night, I gave the shah, I had an early morning chavrusa, and I had to go to bed on time. And usually I eat before I go to bed, like a behemoth. Yeah. And last night, I just went to bed and I didn't eat anything. And you can do it, but it's like getting dragged through glass. It's like, it's so hard. It's so hard to fight these things. Why? Because the reason why it's hard is because we become the taiva. That's why it's hard. Wait, Lazy, you actually raising your hand, or that's just was a pocket dial? Pocket dial. Okay. So that's why it's called ruach shtus, because it's a hisdavus, a identification with emotion, meaning that you've become the taiva, you've become the emotion, and that's why it's called. It's a bechina of misa. Gabriel, you heard that? It says it's yisurim kalim misa. It links up. Everyone's hearing what we're saying here. He says that me last night going to bed, yeah, and not going to the pantry and eating like a bunch of potato chips or whatever, yeah, as is my minhag, yeah. That me not doing that is comparable to dying. It's a quantitative difference, not a qualitative difference. You hear that? You hear the profundity of what we just said? You didn't, if you're not like going, wow, you didn't, I'll try and say it better, yeah? He said that I would have thought, yeah, just as me, you know, small diamond, simple thinking would think that the difference between like denying yourself a bar of chocolate and getting tortured to death is not on the same scale. It's like it's just two different things. It's like comparing two different things. Yeah, they're just not the same thing. But he says no, they are the same thing. They're just different in magnitude, not in not they're not different in quality, they're different in quantity. And this is the exact
Let,
point.
let me give a mashal.
Yeah, please.
I think perhaps it'll be easier to understand when it comes to emotions. When a person is faced with extreme embarrassment or rejection or whatever your emotional trigger is, whatever gets you, you feel your animalistic part of your brain thinks that you're going to die, right? When you're about to take a test and you get all sweaty and your heart starts pounding, even though you don't need your fight or flight, it's because your brain associates that with death. Even though you don't need your heart to be pounding in order to take a test, it's completely contrary to what you need. What happens is your fight or flight gets activated. So the same thing happens when someone cuts you off on the highway, or when your wife ignores you, or when someone yells at you, or you don't get a covered in shul. Whatever it is that activates your animal soul, you think you're about to die, and that's immediately why you jump into action. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. I'm not sure if that's what we're saying.
It's the exact same thing. When I desire something and I cut myself off from that, it's literally my body thinks I'm gonna die. It's mamish. It's
That's
depriving the nefesh habahamis of what it needs for its life force.
it's the bechina of death, but that's the chiddush.
But it's the same thing. Do you hear what I'm saying? Just in every moment of our day, when we get activated, when our nefesh habahamis gets activated, our fight or flight gets activated, it's the same thing. It's literally a fight for survival because the guy cut me off on the highway. I feel like I'm gonna die.
Yeah. Let me think. If you give,
And to not say that thing when your wife did that thing to you, to not say it, even though you tell yourself, don't say it, don't respond, don't respond, don't respond. It's mamish takes every ounce of willpower to hold yourself back.
what we're trying to say though, I think you're saying this, I'm not quite sure, is that is a bechina of death. That is, it's not something different. You're saying this is what you're saying, but this is the
I'm
chiddush.
saying it from the other side. I'm saying it from the side of when we don't hold ourselves back. Why it's
When you're forced to hold yourself up. But the point is that when you are emotionally, I mean, maybe it's not such a chiddush to you because I've said this so many times. I mean, this is just where I've said it from. Is that when you want something, yeah, and you have identified with the desire for that thing, that means your sense of self and that thing have merged with each other. And now, if you don't do that thing, or you deny yourself that thing, or that thing gets taken away from you, well, that's just, it's like death. And this is just the makor for it. This is what he says. He says, Shehem Yisurim Kalim Mimisa. There's kal and there's chomer, but there's not zelo dome zeleze. That's not the inyan. It's zeh kal v'zeh chomer. It's the same. It's mamash the same thing. This is the makor for this idea that we've said so many times. You guys with me? Yitzi, with me? Yeah. So this is the whole inyan of Ruach Shtus. The whole inyan of Ruach Shtus is when you become identified, and he mentions here das kala as well. Why did he have to say data kala? That she has a light das. It's because it's your koyach das that's his. Women, although men believe men also get very identified with stuff, but women, especially with their emotions, women identify with their emotions much more than men identify with their emotions. That's why he calls her data kala. Yeah, that she has a light das, but that's exactly the inyan here. Is it's your koyach das that is what allows you to identify with X. That's the point.
That's why you're more susceptible to a Ruach Shtus when you're tired, hungry,
Exactly.
engaged, overwhelmed by something.
Absolutely, and you become a world, just a mess. You can even marvel at yourself for how you can get caught up in these, and all you need to do is just take a break from it, to make a little bit of distance, and then you'll be able to create that distance between you and the taiva. That's what needs to be done. That's what I think is mesuvim bedin. Yeah, Yitzhi.
I didn't understand what Gabriel just said about being hungry, fueling this, because if you identify with something, right, and you have a hard time cutting that off, what does it matter if you're hungry or not? I didn't understand that.
And you were saying that when you're tired, hungry, depressed, when you don't have energy, then the natural way is that your dust gets mixed up with stuff. There needs to be a certain level of energy that stops you from getting sucked into the.
So you're talking about creating that like separateness, that break. You need energy to do that, to have that sort of break.
Yeah, and everyone knows that you are at your most vulnerable to hate when you're tired, when you're hungry, when you're angry, when your guard is let down and you don't have the available energy. That's when everybody falls in the internet, everyone falls in the eating, everyone falls in being horrible to their wives. Everyone has the same issues. No one's a chiddush. We've all got this. We're all dealing with the same avodah zarah. But
I experienced last week when I talked to you, I was overwhelmed by a Ruach Shtus. I was literally stuck in something, and I was insane. I was clinically insane. I was trying to think I just kept getting sucked in, and then I just got more yediyah. I got more information. The whole thing went away. I just needed to get a little bit of das to understand what was going on, and suddenly all my trauma involvement in something just disappeared because I realized it wasn't about me. It had nothing to do with me.
And I really think that is what Chazal was saying in Mesuvim Bedin. And it makes sense that actually the first thing that they teach in Pirkei Avos, it's literally the most important thing that I know, is that TRS, the thoughtful space, the thoughtful response space, is just holding that being in that place that I really feel is a truly godly place to be in. And just allowing yourself to be in that kind of nowhere place. And then you realize that that's not you. That taiva's not you. And then you've got a chance. You've got a chance to stand aloof from it. Really. And if you can do that, you bring the whole world up with you. You bring yourself, your wife, your family, everybody in the world goes up. It's amazing. It's amazing. So this is the inyan. This is the source of all hate. So I say this to a lot of people, like we've said this hundreds of times, is that you've got everyone's caught up in, I've got Taiva's Niyuf, I've got Shmir Sanayim, I've got Avodas Achila, I've got Kavanu in Tefillah, I've got Shas Ritzifas B'Limud, I've got Limud Be'iyan, I've got Amiris Tehillim, I've got Lashon Hara, I've got Shachris, I've got Shalom Bayis, I've got Avodas Tzedakah, I've got all of these things that I'm always falling in, and I'm not either I'm doing the wrong thing or I'm not doing enough of the right thing, and it all comes down to this one inyan is Roshtus. And then you're like, oh yeah, but Roshtus means that you've become identified with X. Whatever your X may be, is it internet porn? Is it rage? Is it depression and feeling sorry for yourself? Is it overeating? Is it looking at whatever your thing is? Yeah, that's your X. And the avoider is, that's why Chazal said it. What did Chazal say? They said it so beautifully. They just put it in code for us to decode. But they said it. They said, Ein Adam Oive Aveira Ele Imke Nichnas by Roshtus. Now, call me I don't know, call me whatever you want, but wouldn't you invest huge energy into understanding those words extremely deeply? Doesn't that make sense that you should, if Chazal said, and these are the words, it's in Sota, yeah, Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. Ein Adam Oive Aveira Ele Imke Nichnas by Roshtus. Shouldn't that be like, you know, at least an hour a day at every yeshiva studying those 8 words, whatever, how many words it is? But yeah, it's a ruch shtus, you know, it's like a ruach, it's like shtus comes in and you do aveiros. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That is the source of all aveira, is the fact that you become an aveira. And there you go, that's the dam b'chav schus. That means a yid never does an aveira, ever. A yid can't do an aveira. The only thing that can do an aveira is an aveira. When we do an aveira, we are the aveira. Meaning the yid doesn't do the aveira. The yid has to watch the aveira. That's bad. That's terrible. The yid gets dragged along with the aveira, and the yid has to sit there and witness the aveira. Yeah, that's the tshuva. The tshuva is the real tshuva is saying, Rebbeinu Shalom, you deserve more from me. But the kind of the ichiness comes from the fact that you dragged your neshama into an aveira. It's not that the neshama did an aveira. Only an aveira can do an aveira. Okay, onward. Oh, and by the way, the whole point is that shtus only gets up to chokhmah. V'loy ad bichlal. It covers the whole system, but not the nakuda and tzai of the neshama, from which we are able to do tshuva, and from which we are able to give ourselves with Mesiras Nefesh instead of bowing to the idol. Okay, aval be'emes la'amitoi, in truth, afilu aveira kala hare oivre al ratzon elyon baruch v'betachlis appeared mi yehuda v'achdusa yizbrach yosem esitra achor klipa nikra elem acherim v'avoidazar mamash. That, see, we make this arbitrary, you know, if a man is really into his wife, if he really loves his wife, nothing about her, he actually loves her, yeah, then to him, leaving his dirty socks not in the washing bin, leaving them on the floor in the bedroom, which he hates, yeah, and by the way, all women hate that, yeah, leaving your dirty socks, not having put your dirty socks, or even they like hanging out a little bit, you didn't put them all the way in, that's also not acceptable. Yeah, that's as bad as niyaf. If you're connected to your wife and not to being a good husband, then not putting your dirty socks in the laundry is the exact same thing to you as niyaf.
What's niyaf again?
Adultery.
Dirty socks is adultery. Okay, I like that title.
If your wife is what it's about, and not about being a good husband, because a man who has niyuf, yeah, a man who messes around with his secretary, yeah, well, that's mamash, that's not a good husband at all, yeah. But a man who doesn't put his socks in the laundry, look, there's guys out there having niyuf, you know, I'm doing pretty good. But when it's your wife there, it's irrelevant if she would hate it or just mildly dislike it. That's not it. Is it yes or no? It's about her. It's binary. There's no madrigas. It's not acceptable. She doesn't want that. She really doesn't want it, or she just doesn't want it. Yeah, if she doesn't mind it, then that's a different thing. But if she doesn't want it, or she really, really doesn't want it, because it's about her. It's about the essence of who she is. That's all the Averas become the same thing. You with me there? It's an important idea to hut deeply. So that's what he's saying, really and true. That he says that right here plainly. He says, Alva, emes la'amito, in truth, emes la'amito, when you're dealing with the person, yeah, the essence of the person. Afilu avera kala, even a slight, a small, a light sin, he's over on Ratzon Elyon. He's over on Ratzon Elyon. It's like at the end of the day, is it mutter or is it asa? It's asa. How asa is it? Leave me alone. It's asa. Over ala Ratzon Elyon Baruch Hu, v'hu betachlis a period miyichud v'achdusa yizbrach. Yosef b'sishrach v'klibu v'nikol Elohim achirim. It's more, it's completely separated. So it's like this dimion, this delusional kind of thing that we've put up in our heads that makes madrigas. Look, this isn't the best. He doesn't really want this, but it's better than I'm doing that. Yeah, a person hasn't begun avodas Hashem, real avodas Hashem. If we're really in it for the Rebbeinu Shalom, it becomes very, very binary. It's just very binary, yes or no. And that's really the key to, that really is the key to Avodas Hashem, is looking at stuff in a very binary way, not people. Don't give everyone madrigas and madrigas. Yeah, but in regards to your own avodah, make it binary and you'll be in a very, very good place. Just only allow yourself yes or no. And that's a big, that's very, very helpful. Very helpful. I learned that from Hanan Solomon. Hanan Solomon was yes or no. If it's no, finished. There's no wiggle room there. There was no gray area. That's a very helpful place to be, but not with anybody else. Chaz v'shalom. Not with anybody else. Only with yourself. With everybody else, there's madrigas and every little bit they do is givaldic. But with yourself, you should try and be as binary as possible. And it's lower than all of the things that get their influence from this from this klipa in behemoths tameus, the impure animals, v'chayas, v'oifus tameus, all the impure animals and birds, shkatzim and mashem, and the funny like icky insects and reptiles and stuff like that. Yitush kadma. This is such a big thing. Yitush kadmach. Yeah, the yitush comes before you. Yeah. Perish. The af yitush machnis ve'ena moitzi shehi klibi yoyse tachtoina v'ochoikum bechinas kedusha. That there's this creature called a yitush that it ingests and it doesn't excrete. Okay. Says Chazal, it is the lowest of all the klipas, and it receives from the very furthest place. It comes before you in the pecking order of where you get your energy from. Yeah, the lowest of all creatures. We'll explain why that is in a minute. And all the more so if you get your hashpa after the yitush, then the other behemoths balei chaim tameim afilu chayus ros, Yeah, lions and tigers, very low creatures. Shekulam einam mishanim tafkidam. None of them go against their nature, so to speak, or the place they were put in. And where Hashem stationed them. Shamarucham afalgav deihu loichazi. Even though they don't see, they don't go against their place in creation, whereas the Yid who is Oiver does. And this is we'll finish on this. But the Indian, by the way, this is the side of Paroi. Paroi didn't want anyone to know that he went to the bathroom, yeah? That's the Indian of Machnis Eina Moitzi. He ingested and didn't excrete. That's the lowest of all levels. He was trying to be the anti-God. He had the Yidden building for him his Dira B'Tachtoinim. That's what Paro was doing. The Yidden were there building him at Mitzrayim, the lowest of all lands, and they were building for him his Binyanim. He had the Yidden building him a Dira. That was his Inyan, the Dira B'Tachtoinim. So Paroi was Moshe said Einod Milvado. Paro said Ani va'afsi oid. Paro was trying to be the opposite of God. The opposite of God is the Yitush. Why? Because he's machnis va'eina moitzi. He ingests and doesn't excrete. Whereas Hashem is eina machnis u'moitzi. He doesn't ingest and he only excretes. He only gives hashpah. That's the definition of good. The definition of good is exclusive giving, which would also include receiving. Whereas the definition of Ra is exclusive taking, exclusive ingesting without exclusive ingestation without any excretion. And that, 1 minute. Yeah. Beautiful. We know remember we've spoken in the past about the analogy of the stream. How you've got the stream is kadosh, and then someone kind of scratches away an estuary, a little stream from the stream, and that water siphons off and it starts to collect and it becomes a swamp, a disgusting swamp. So that's a beautiful moshel for the Inyan of Klipa and Kedusha. What is the disgustingness of the swamp predicated on? The pristine crystal water of the stream running down the mountain, yeah? That's Kedusha. Someone scratches it when that water is siphoned off and starts to collect and it becomes a disgusting swamp, yeah? What happens when that swamp dries out? What's a dried out swamp called?
A desert? You're going to say a meadow.
Yeah.
But it's probably more a desert until it starts getting less dry. All right, yeah. You mean a semi-dry?
When the water stops being siphoned into it, it becomes a meadow. Yeah, if you dry out the water completely, then you're right, it becomes a desert. But so it comes out, the disgustingness of the swamp is the Kedusha. The Kedusha being held captive by the grass area causes it to be a swamp. But now this is the point, yeah? What's the difference between a swamp and a stream? One word, begins with F.
Flow.
Yeah. Every stage of the stream is receiving and giving, receiving and giving, receiving and giving, receiving and giving. That's Kedusha. The swamp just receives. It just collects. It collects the water. That's Ra. So that's the reason why the Yitush, and by the way, I think what I said is not correct, that Hashem doesn't receive. Hashem does receive from us. He receives a nachas ruach from us. He receives a lot from us. So he's the perfect example of toiv. That that is kedusha. Kedusha is receiving, giving, receiving, giving, receiving, giving, and Ra is taking, and that's why the Yitush is considered the lowest of all creatures, because it receives and it doesn't even give excrement. That's a level of giving. Excrement is a level of giving. In fact, that's how all of the worlds from Bria down, that they receive, so to speak, from Hashem's back. That's why they're called the Kisei covered. He sits on them. His connection to Bria Tzirasiya is Acharaim. He gives them from his back part, from his backside, so to speak. Yeah, that's the inyan of excrement being machaye. Machaye. It's a form of giving. So the creature that is the lowest of all creatures is the creature that has no capacity to give. That is such a takeaway. Is we are striving to give in every situation. The words on the tip of your tongue should always be, "How can I help?" That's it. Just always. How can I help? Let me know how I can help. Tell me, usual. How can I help? How can I help? Those should be the most natural words to come out of our mouth. So if I hear, yeah, well, how can I help? Where do I fit in with this? How can I help? And they say, well, I don't really know. And then you have to think, how can I help? As in the words of Jordan Peterson, be a force for good. Be a force for good. Bring goodness to the world. Look in the mirror at the end of the day. Yeah, this is the goal. This is the goal. Well, we don't want to look in the mirror, yeah, but let's just say, pretend you're looking in the mirror. You look in the mirror and you look at yourself and you say, Diamond, you made this world a little bit better today. Because of you, this world is a little bit better. That is how we should go to sleep at night. We should be able to look back and think, yeah, I just brought a little bit of light to this world. Yeah, I brought more light than darkness. Baruch Hashem. Because of me, this world is 1 lumen brighter than it was before I woke up. Now you can go to sleep peacefully and feel secure that Hashem will wake you up for the next day. Okay, we should be good, really good. And good to our wives as well, B'ezrat Hashem. Kol tov, Chavre.